let's get to quarterback word association. And let's begin in Texas, in Houston. Deshaun Watson. First word or phrase, you're not limited to one. Word, phrase, clause, paragraph that comes to mind as it relates to the relationship between Deshaun Watson and the Houston Texans.
I think it's broken, Mike. That's the word that first comes to mind. I mean, the Texans are still insistent of we are not trading Deshaun Watson. He will see the light of day. He will come back to us. Just wait, just wait. Even though they haven't talked to him. They haven't had a word with him. New coach David Culley has not exchanged any words with Deshaun Watson, but they are convinced they can talk him into coming back, that he will come back just because he has no other options. And I don't know that that's going to be the case. I think they wait too long on this. To me, you have to get it done by the draft to get full benefit out of it. Well, there's not going to be an all-season program, so if he's not around, you still think you can talk him back, right? So until training camp, when he doesn't show up for training camp, and you figure out, oh my gosh, we need a quarterback. Who are we going to have start at quarterback if Deshaun Watson truly doesn't come back? And I don't see him coming back. So I think this is a broken relationship, and I don't think the Texans yet realize that it's broken, Mike.
This is going to take a little bit of a wind up, and it may not be worth the payoff. But when you said, I think it's broken, it reminded me of one of the lines from my cousin Vinny when he says, I think the effing thing is broken. And that's relevant because there's the thing going around on Twitter now where they say, cite a line from a movie that fans of it would instantly recognize. And I don't know, would my cousin Vinny fans recognize, I think the effing thing is broken? And now I'm sitting here
Houston, we have a problem.
I'm pondering the possibility of saying the word because we're not on NBCSN today. And we're on Peacock. And let me tell you, I've watched many of the offerings on Peacock, and the F word is rampant on Peacock. I want to start a petition to use the F word on the days that we are Peacock only. Pete, can I go ahead and let it fly today just for fun? Pete says, let's wait. Pete has kids to feed. So in deference to the children of Pete, who already have it hard enough because he's their dad, I'll make sure that they also don't go hungry. All right. I think that my phrase would be cut off the nose to spite the face. That's what the Texans are poised to do. Because they want to send a message, because they don't want to blink, because the inmates can't be running the prison, one of the catchphrases, regretful catchphrases from the franchise from a few years ago. We've talked about this before, Charean, on PFTPM, and I'm on board. They are going to screw this up. They are going to dig in, and they're going to hold firm, and they're going to blow their opportunity. And Nick Caserio is going to talk himself blue in the face to get Jack Easterby and Cal McNair to understand how they need to set aside the desire to send a message or win this weird tug of war and just maximize the return. You don't maximize the return by ignoring opportunities to maximize the return, which is seemingly what they're doing.
Well, and Mike, here's the deal. Deshaun Watson had one of the great years a quarterback has had this year. He led the league in passing yards. They won 4 games. This is a team that is a long, long, long way away from contending with or without Deshaun Watson. And it may be time to just hit that hard reset button and start over and get all the draft picks you can get, because you would get a ton. And they've traded all those away. They don't have, as we know, a first-round draft pick this year. So hit the hard reset button and start over. And I know, franchise quarterback, I get it. Franchise quarterbacks don't come along like this. You're not close to contending anyway. You don't have the draft picks to do it. You don't have the cap room to do it. So are you just going to let Deshaun Watson play out his deal and lose for the next 4 years? I don't know. I don't know where this franchise go. It's in disarray, and it's in disarray for a reason.
It reminds me a little bit, although it's a different position, it reminds me of what the Vikings went through 6 years ago with Mike Zimmer and Rick Spielman came to Houston to meet with Peterson and to gently point out to him, you play for us or you play for no one. It's easier to do that with a non-quarterback. You need your quarterback to be all in. Your quarterback is a member of management among the employees who is there to lead, to inspire, to hold accountable. He has to be fully on board. There's stuff he does that goes above and beyond what he's paid. And if he doesn't want to be there. Now, if Deshaun Watson shows up, I don't think he does anything half-assed, but I just don't think he's going to show up. And I think he's made it clear to them he's not going to show up, and they just need to move on, and we need to move on to the next team. Russell Wilson and the Seahawks. Charean, word association for the current relationship between Wilson and Seattle.
I think it's uncertain, Mike, and maybe hanging on by a thread, because it sounds like to me that Wilson perhaps wants more than what the Seahawks can deliver. And that's the question. Are they going to do what Russell Wilson wants them to do? And if they don't, then this relationship is short-lived. I can very well see him playing this season for the Seahawks and that being the end of his career in Seattle. And this is just a different day and age of quarterbacks, Mike. We used to see them go to one team, they'd be drafted by that team, and they'd finish their career there. That's not the way it works anymore. And we're seeing quarterbacks with a lot of power, and they're exercising that power, and that's exactly what Russell Wilson is doing, Mike.
Fear is a great motivator, as I learned through 12 years of Catholic school, and fear of alienating the fan base used to be the primary motivation when it came to quarterbacks who may have wanted out but didn't want to say anything, didn't want to do anything that could potentially make the fans upset. We are seeing quarterbacks at a point where they don't care anymore, that they trust that the people who get it will be with them, and the ones who don't understand it, if they're not with them, fine. And you know what? Maybe this is a reflection of social media. Maybe could it be there's something positive about social media in that we all kind of thicken our skins and recognize not everyone's going to like us. There's going to be people who don't like us. There's going to be people who like us. And if you don't like me, if you don't like my decision, if you don't like that I don't want to work here or live here or play for this team, that's your problem, not my problem. I'm going to go forward with my life. And I feel like that's what Deshaun Watson's doing, and I feel like that's what Russell Wilson is thinking about doing. For me, I'll go one word, fluid, because that's the truth. That was the last word I got last week. Where does it stand? Has he asked for a trade? He hasn't asked for a trade. All things are fluid. We haven't heard anything more about where that fluid has flowed the past few days. Maybe things are calming down a little bit. Maybe they've reached some sort of a quiet understanding, but it was fluid as of last week, and I think it's currently fluid between Russell Wilson and the Seahawks. Stay in the NFC West, the San Francisco 49ers. Jimmy Garoppolo. Best word, phrase, clause to describe the relationship between San Francisco and its supposed franchise quarterback.
Well, I'm going to steal this one from Pete, but it does feel like it's a one more chance, and it does feel like that Jimmy Garoppolo is going to return to the 49ers this year and be their quarterback, but perhaps it will be his last year there. And it does almost feel like a one-sided relationship, like Jimmy wants to be there because he thinks he can win there. He's shown he can win there. I mean, they should have won the Super Bowl last year. And the 49ers keep having their eye looking elsewhere to where can we upgrade. And they obviously should have gone out and gotten Tom Brady, and they might have been the ones lifting the Lombardi trophy this year. They didn't do that. They stuck with Jimmy G. I could see this playing out for one more year, Mike, but if they don't get back to the Super Bowl, I see this as really a short-term relationship.
I'll go with lack of pliability, because that sums up Jimmy Garoppolo and his inability to stay healthy at a time when 43-year-old Tom Brady continues to show up for every game. 23 games missed by Garoppolo over the last 3 seasons. I've been thinking about this one a lot. I need to write something about it. I need to collect my thoughts. I need to really, really articulate what's rattling around inside my brain. I think they're going to cut him. I think they're eventually going to cut him. I think that's going to happen between now and week 1. There's no guaranteed money left in the deal. There's a ridiculously low salary cap charge relative to the cap, even if it drops to 180. He's got a $25 million compensation package. I think $500,000 is tied up in offseason workouts. The rest of it is a salary of $24,100, $24,200. I think he's got $500,000 in workouts, $300,000 in per game roster bonuses, and whatever the difference is, $24,200 salary. I don't think they're going to find anyone to trade for him. I don't think that for the same reasons the 49ers want to move on, another team is not going to want to take that contract because of the inability to stay healthy. The Patriots make a ton of sense from a trade standpoint. They're not going to pay him. They're not going to pay a year after paying Cam Newton not even $7 million. The maximum, I think he ended up making $3.7 million on the year with the salary and the incentives. Right. I don't think anyone is going to take on that contract. I think the 49ers are going to get someone else, whether they trade for Sam Darnold, whether they draft someone, whether they sign someone. They're going to hold on to Jimmy Garoppolo until they get his replacement, and then they're going to cut him. That's my prediction for the 49ers and Garoppolo this offseason.
And you think, is Darnold the best option? That's what you think they're going to do?
Peter King and I, or Miles and I, at some point over the past day, I can't keep it straight anymore because we talk so much about these different angles. But I think that Darnold would make sense. It was Miles and I last night trying to figure out when Darnold would be traded, before the draft, after the draft, during the draft, after round one, like Josh Rosen was traded by the Cardinals to the Dolphins a couple of years ago. I think Darnold is a guy that could run that offense. And Kyle Shanahan is very particular about the way he wants it to be run, and I think he believes that Darnold can do exactly what is expected in that offense. Or, I don't know, maybe they trade for Kirk Cousins, although I don't see the Vikings letting him go. But my prediction, write it down now, and if I'm wrong, well, hey, I was right about the Super Bowl winner, so I have some leeway here. Jimmy Garoppolo cut by the 49ers before week 1. Derek Carr and the Raiders. Word association to describe the relationship, Charean.
In lust, but not in love. And I think this is sort of the same scenario we've talked about, Mike. I think the Raiders really have that wandering eye looking around to what's better that's out there. You know, how can we upgrade over this guy? And Derek Carr thinks he can win with the Raiders. And so I don't know how this relationship ends.
There it is.
Think possibly
there it is.
There it is.
There it is.
I think that maybe it doesn't end well for either side, but, you know, Derek Carr may be their best option right now. I don't know who they upgrade over Derek Carr at this point, Mike, but I certainly don't think they're in love with Derek Carr.
I think, can we put that back up? Because it's not entirely accurate the way that we have that. Because Marcus Mariota is the backup quarterback. They're talking about trading him. I think we changed the person on the left to any other quarterback. That's what it is with John Gruden. Any other quarterback, that's what he does. And Chris Sims has told us that's how he is. And he's so smitten with the idea of eventually getting himself a Peyton Manning. Well, there isn't a Peyton Manning out there. There isn't a guy that's going to fall into John Gruden's lap. But, yeah, hey, the points bet odds last week when everything started to bubble up with Russell Wilson, top of the list, Las Vegas Raiders. Right. So Gruden's going to look, Gruden's going to think, Gruden's going to meander. Gruden's going to ponder. I was told a couple of weeks ago when the possibility of a trade first came up that Gruden is not trading him. I haven't written that yet at PFT because I don't believe it, because I still think there's a chance that somebody's going to fall into Gruden's lap and he's going to say, Derek Carr, see you later. Jalen Hurts, Eagles, word association, relationship, go.
I think honeymoon. They're still in that honeymoon phase, Mike, and we know Hurts is taking his receivers into Texas, I assume down in the Houston area where he is from, to work out with those receivers. He's the quarterback, and he's going to be the quarterback of the Eagles this season, but who knows how that's going to work out, right? Because they're still in that honeymoon phase trying to figure each other out. Is he the right guy for the Eagles? Are the Eagles the right team for him? And that's yet to be determined. So new coaching staff, new offense, a lot of new in Philadelphia, including the new starting quarterback who only started a handful of games last season. So a lot to be learned by this team this year.
For me, it's dangerous expectations. And I really do think one of the reasons why Jalen Hurts was removed for Nate Sudfeld from the Week 17 primetime game on NBC between Washington and Philadelphia was because if Hurts had pulled it out, it would be a given then that he's the guy, and it builds this legend. And you don't want the expectation of the fan base going into Jalen Hurts, what will be his first full season as the starter, being just too much. This isn't going to be an MVP candidate right out of the gates. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some effort. Oh, by the way, they fired Doug Peterson, which sets everything back. I just think they don't want the expectations for Jalen Hurts to be too high. That's where the danger creeps in, and that's where you end up having Eagles fans shift their ire from Carson Wentz over to Jalen Hurts if he doesn't perform at the level that they would like. Alex Smith, Washington. What's the word association to best describe that relationship, Charean?
This is a really hard one, Mike. And I guess cozy, I would use the term cozy because Washington really likes Alex Smith and what he did, and it's a story for the ages, and it's probably going to be made into a movie, and you root for that, and that's fantastic. He won Comeback Player of the Year, but at the same time, they want an upgrade at quarterback. They don't know who their quarterback's going to be. They put in for Matthew Stafford. They talked about that. Kyle Allen could come back. They've already re-signed Taylor Heineke. So, I don't know what they're going to do at quarterback. We don't know what Alex Smith's future is. You root for a guy like that. I know Washington is rooting for him, but I'm not sure that he's their quarterback long term. I'm not even sure he's their quarterback this year. It's not going to surprise me at all if he retires after what he did last year.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the best way to put it. It's over. I feel like it's over. He's got a huge salary for 2021. It's not guaranteed. They've paid him a lot of money over the last 3 years. Remember when they traded for him? Bruce Allen instantly gave him a contract extension. Didn't have to, and in hindsight, shouldn't have done it. But I just think that for what he's due to make, for what they'd want him to take, he's better off getting cut, which is what will happen, and just picking his next spot, picking where he wants to be a backup. And you can make very good money as a backup quarterback in the NFL, 4, 5, 6, 7 million. It's a great gig if you don't have to play. And I think Alex Smith has a lot to give by way of teaching and mentoring a young quarterback. And he could almost slide into a Josh McCown phase of his career where he doesn't play, but he's on the team. He gets compensated more than he would get compensated as a quarterback's coach. And maybe at some point makes the transition to coaching if that's what he wants to do. But Alex Smith has always been a guy about whom the other quarterbacks on the team have raved. Go back to 2017, 2018 with Patrick Mahomes. All the credit to Alex Smith for being selfless and teaching and helping Mahomes learn that offense. That's what Smith can do, and I think that's what we'll see him do. Wouldn't it be something if he went back to the Chiefs as the backup to Patrick Mahomes? I'd take Alex Smith over Chad Henne and Matt Moore, all due respect to those two. So I just think it's over in Washington. Aaron Rodgers, we thought it may be on the way to being over based upon the things Aaron Rodgers said after the NFC Championship. How would you best describe the current relationship between player and team in Green Bay, Charean?
I think they're the old married couple, right? They're bickering and kind of looking elsewhere, and they've been together so long that, they know how each other
thinks. Did you wash this pair? Did you wash this pair? I washed it. Go ahead.
Exactly. Yeah. So they're the old married couple there that are just kind of getting along in life, and whatever the rest of the life brings, that's what it's going to bring. But I don't know how long this relationship lasts, Mike. I think if Aaron Rodgers wasn't coming off the MVP season, we're having a different conversation, and we're talking about Aaron Rodgers going somewhere else. We're talking about him being traded somewhere else, but you can't do that coming off an MVP season, and that's what happened. So he's their quarterback for this season. Beyond this season, who knows? I mean, I think they drafted Jordan Love to be their quarterback of the future. I don't think they drafted him to groom and eventually trade. I think they drafted him with the thought of he's going to replace Aaron Rodgers. So I still think that's going to happen. It's just a matter of when, Mike.
Well, and to take your excellent example one step farther and ruin it completely, they are the old married couple where one holds power of attorney and is waiting for the other one to slip into a coma so the plug can be pulled. That's what it is. That's what of course the Packers aren't going to trade Aaron Rodgers now. He's coming off an MVP year. And if he continues to play at that level, they won't trade him or cut him after 2021. That's the core issue here. Rodgers wants certainty. He wants commitment. He wants to know that plug's not getting pulled for the next 2 or 3 years. A contract with an appropriate level of guaranteed money ties the team's hands. The team, and when Brian Gutekunst said he's under contract, that's code for we hold the cards. Well, he's under contract. We hold the cards. We have him under contract for 3 more years. We get to decide this year, do we want him back? Yes, we do. Next year, do we want him back? We'll see. The year after that, we'll see. That's what Aaron Rodgers wants to avoid because they have that ability to just say, see you later whenever they want. So I think that's good. Your part of it was good. I made it dark and disturbing, but it's accurate. The Packers are just waiting for the moment to pull the plug on Aaron Rodgers. Tua Tagovailoa and the Miami Dolphins, how would you describe their relationship?
I would say they're dating but not yet committed, Mike. This is just kind of that early phase of or is this going to be a long-term relationship or a short-term relationship? I just don't think we saw enough from Tua last year to know what he is, to know how good he can be. And the problem for the Dolphins, obviously, is we did see enough of Justin Herbert to know that he's going to be a great quarterback. I think everyone agrees on that. And the Dolphins bypassed Justin Herbert to take Tua. So they need to get Ryan Fitzpatrick re-signed or something, because Tua might not be the quarterback of the future for the Dolphins. Now, I know Ryan Fitzpatrick is not the quarterback of the future, but that relationship certainly worked well for the Dolphins this year.
We asked Tua a couple of weeks ago, pointed question, do you want Ryan Fitzpatrick back next year? And he did not answer the question. He gave us an answer. It was friendly. It was nice. When you look at what he said, he didn't answer the question. Okay, to take another excellent selection by you and just completely throw it off the rails. This is the Pete's very nervous now. Dating but not yet committed, with this caveat. Tua is the guy they take to dinner, but then when they get home, they grab the phone and text someone else you up. So that's the relationship between two. Now, Ryan Fitzpatrick is moving out of town, so they're going to need somebody else to text you up after midnight too. But that's the relationship between Tua and the Dolphins for right now. Tua's basically got to prove that he's the one worthy of getting that post-midnight text message from the Dolphins. Ben Roethlisberger and the Steelers, how would you describe their relationship?
I think it's just comfortable, Mike. They've gotten to that point where it's hard to break up, right? You're just they're both there, and there's probably better options out there for a team that has a great defense and some excellent weapons on offense, but it's just comfortable with Ben at quarterback. And that just, if he comes back, then they're going to have him at quarterback as long as he's going to be the quarterback. We talked about how the quarterback dynamics have changed. Pittsburgh is one place that hasn't changed. I don't see Ben Roethlisberger going anywhere else to finish his career. I think it's in Pittsburgh. I think he finishes his career in Pittsburgh and walks away as one of the league's all-time leading passers, is going into the Hall of Fame, and will not play for another franchise. That's how I see that relationship finishing.
This, to me, is the football equivalent of staying together for the kids. I don't think either side wants to be perceived as the villain in the divorce. The Steelers, we want him for another year. Ben, I want to play for another year. I think anytime you start talking about that final year, you're just asking for trouble. And I'm tainted by the Brett Favre 2010 experience with the Vikings when he came back for one more year. Although from Roethlisberger's perspective, Jerome Bettis came back for that one more year, and it worked out. The Steelers aren't nearly as close to winning a championship now as they were going into the 2005 season. That was the season after they were 15-1 in Roethlisberger's rookie year and lost at home to the Patriots in the AFC Championship. The next year they cashed in and they won the Super Bowl. They got the Ravens. They've got the Chiefs. They've got great teams in that conference that they have to deal with. They got great teams in their division they have to deal with. So I just think that, and I still think there's a chance that it's going to fall apart. Ed Bouchette planted this idea in my brain a couple of weeks ago. He had an excellent item in The Athletic. Just because everyone has said all the right things publicly, it does not mean they're going to work out a contract that allows Ben Roethlisberger to return, and they clear up $19 million just like that in cap space if they cut Ben Roethlisberger. Jameis Winston, Saints, how would you describe that relationship?
Close to proposing. They're thinking about it. They've bought the ring. It's just, when's that right time going to be to make that full commitment toward marriage? And I do think this is headed that way, Mike. Now, whether Jameis Winston ends up starting the season as our quarterback, I don't know. I think Sean Payton finds some way to use both Taysom Hill and Jameis Winston. But I do see Jameis Winston with the Saints, and I do see Jameis Winston playing for the Saints as well as Taysom Hill. And how that works out, I don't know. I don't know that it's going to be a Roger Staubach, Craig Morton, hey, let's alternate plays or let's alternate series. But I think both of those guys play quarterback for the Saints this year.
I feel like, and I think back to the Sean Payton interviews that he did Super Bowl week. He was on with us. He was on with several others. And the way he talks about Jameis Winston, I feel like he's the guy in the local courthouse square with the megaphone saying, I'm getting ready to propose. if anyone else out there would like to do so first, please feel free. But I'm getting ready to. And I feel like he believes he owes it to Jameis Winston to help place him in a starting job somewhere. I'm not 100% sure he wants him, because if he did, I don't know why he'd be saying publicly all the things he's saying, because Winston is on track to be a free agent. They're not going to use the franchise tag on him. They don't have a right of first refusal in his contract. So all of these flowery things that he said about what a great leader he was and this, that, and the other thing, the other teams out there that are identifying their free agency options, hey, the Bears, we talked about them earlier. Hey, maybe I should go get Jameis Winston. So I feel like what Sean Payton is trying to do is set up someone to come take him, and he can say, oh, boy, we really wanted to keep Jameis Winston. Let's move on to Taysom Hill and find someone else to back up Taysom Hill. And on that note, a guy who was one of the backups in New Orleans until he left last year for the Carolina Panthers, the last one on our list, Teddy Bridgewater and the Panthers. How would you describe their relationship?
Feels like a fling, Mike. Kind of a one-year fling, right? We had a lot of fun. We won some games. All right, that's it. Here's the door. See you later. Might see you again sometime, but we're moving on to somebody else. So that's what it feels like to me. This just doesn't feel like it's going to work long term. I don't know where Teddy ends up. Maybe he stays there, but they certainly might want a better quarterback than what they got from Teddy Bridgewater this season.
I hate to admit this publicly, and nobody's really watching today, but so I'll go ahead and say it. I love the movie Grease. There's just something about, and I shouldn't. There is just something about it that is so
it's
awesome.
Good.
And Pete said summer love when you said fling, and I think of the scene, and I'm going to admit way too much knowledge of this movie, but the scene at the pep rally and the bonfire when all of a sudden Danny and Sandy get together again, and Danny acts like he doesn't know her. That's the Panthers right now with Teddy Bridgewater. That's that scene. And Teddy is Olivia Newton-John, and Teddy's getting upset, and Teddy is getting ready to say to the Panthers, I wish I'd never laid eyes on you, and run away. Because it's clear, Charean, they don't want him.
Yes.
The report came out. They offered him to the Lions for Matthew Stafford along with the 8th overall pick in the draft plus more. And the Lions said no thank you. So it's a shame. And I'd love to see Teddy Bridgewater back in Minnesota. But I don't think that's going to happen either. But I thought Teddy was good last year. I don't get it. I think David Tepper, the owner of that team, is so desperate to get a true franchise quarterback, he's willing to throw overboard any other quarterback as they try to get a franchise guy. And I put them in play for something behind the scenes to try to get Deshaun Watson or Russell Wilson.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, Deshaun Watson makes sense. Certainly, he played at Clemson, a huge draw for the Panthers. He'd answer their prayers as the franchise quarterback. Something really, have they even had that in Carolina? I can't think of a great, truly franchise guy that they've had. One of the best, well, I guess Cam won the MVP award in 2015 when they went 15-1, but he would be the next thing from Cam, right, as their franchise quarterback. But the question would be, would Deshaun want to go back and play there? He does have the no trade clause, but for Carolina's standpoint, it makes perfect sense that they would be all in on Deshaun Watson and let's go get him, and we'll even trade you Christian McCaffrey. What do you want? We'll give it up to get Deshaun Watson, Mike.
And I had a thought as you were saying that. Clemson. They have the 8th overall pick. The Jaguars have the 1st overall pick. Two teams that entered the league together back in 1995. Not that has any relevance to this, but I feel like David Tepper is so determined to get a franchise quarterback. Russell Wilson, 8th overall pick, plus
trade up
a lot of other stuff to go get Trevor Lawrence with the 1st overall pick in the draft. And when I think back to the All or Nothing series that focused on the Panthers, and David Tepper was riding in the back of an SUV, and he was talking about how the league is set up for all teams to be 500, and there are certain things you can do to skew above or below it. Coach, GM, and you got to have a great quarterback. And I remember thinking in that moment, Ron Rivera's done, Marty Herney's done, and David Tepper's going to be hell-bent on getting a franchise quarterback. So clearly, Bridgewater's going to unload him as part of a trade if they can. But maybe they, if they can't get a proven veteran who's available and is a true franchise quarterback, maybe they make a run to the top of the draft and keep Trevor Lawrence in the Carolinas moving forward to start his NFL career.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.